Hey, doing a little work on the audiobook for the Sacred 7 and just wanted to spend some time with you. This is my home recording studio. That's why I have this beautiful crocheted blanket behind me. The plea deal was offering me 10 years to life. So just getting ready to record a little bit here. So here we go. The I am inside me was crushed under the massive weight of the possibility. Whatever power in my mind had to control the situation was gone. I was left with nothing to bear the burden of my life choices. There was no more room for my blaming my life as a child, no more room for saying it was the drugs that made me do it. All of that was gone. I was simply swimming in the depths of the tragedy of my life. I resurfaced from my depth reflection and decided I wasn't going to be just another captive to the system, to myself, to my family, to my neighborhood, to anything. I wasn't going to follow in the footsteps of my mother and my father and become just one more self-fulfilling prophecy. I was going to change, even if it meant being a monk for 25 years. When I got out, I wanted to do something better. It became clear to me that there was no more need to fight the destructive battle of the internal demise that had been fueled by the culture of my childhood. Instead, I became filled with the refreshing thoughts of being free. I started to feel a new life begin to bud inside of me that would lead me to a new world of infinite possibilities. My thoughts began to build a new metaphysical architecture for my life out of the rubble of the crushed I ams that had developed over the years. A spacious sense of openness began to bud within me and guide me. As I traveled on this new road, I felt a sense of flow that seemed to manifest the tools I needed to build a place of my own design, the design of freedom. The I am that my long-standing dwelling place had created was comfortable. It was seasoned and well-maintained, and it would take courage to let go of. My new path was built only by hope and faith. The certainties of survival were unclear. The road was being laid down as I walked. In the midst of generational incarceration, I jumped into a sea of uncertain outcomes. Like a traveler destined for a new place, I found the courage to leave what I had become, my resident state of mental slavery. It had been generations in the making, so I needed to clear a new path within myself and for myself. I had to find my own freedom from drug culture. Not just freedom from using, but freedom from the lifestyle in order to get a foothold on a path of sovereignty. It was time for a change. I had never been much of a reader. My life had never felt safe enough to open the doorway that reading provides. So now I have to go. Now I have to go back and because I didn't. The desecration was the word, and now I need to delete where I messed up. So I could show you all. I'm using Audacity right now. Oh, nice. I know this is your mama's blanket. Yeah, it's doing great too. Monica's mom's blanket right there. So I'm going to go back in and edit this small piece where I messed up. That's what it sounds like. Can you hear that? I don't know if you guys can hear that, but so I'm going to cut that out. And then there we go. And now hit record. The desecration brought on by addiction and dysfunction around me led me to find a way to explore new worlds and ideas in books. Those new ideas would come from a person I trusted. The only person I knew from the outside was someone who was being held on the same charges as I was. We called him Footbear. He was a very spiritual person and was close to being free. Messed up there. The thing about the recording process is that you want to get every word right. So he was a very spiritual person and was close to being free. So we called him Footbear. Okay, cool. I'm going to cut that out. Sweet. So this is the book. I'm doing the audio book right now. Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Frank. So here we go. He was a very spiritual person and was close to being free as anyone I had ever met. We stood outside the prison population like two sore thumbs, looking like a couple of guys who had just walked out of the woods. I had dreadlocks down my back, and his almost touched the floor. Footbear had been my connection and partner in an LSD, mushroom, and high-quality marijuana business. We had sold a lot of LSD together, so much that I was known everywhere I went, even in the grocery store. Someone would inevitably walk up to me and tell me they knew someone that I had did business with as a dealer. I knew Footbear was the connection, and I was the soldier, working the concerts, raves, in the streets. We made a lot of money in those days, and even though that wasn't really my motivation, the constructs of the I am statements of my life had created me as a drug dealer. I remember fortifying those ideas in my mind with thousands of dollars would be in a deal, and everyone was feeling edgy. The look of fear in the eyes of everyone doing the exchange comforted me as I judged the fears as weakness. I would tell myself, you grew up in this. You were made for these moments. I had earned that mental strength from years of surviving the lifestyle, and I was comfortable when others were edgy and in fear. When I sold LSD, I felt like a soldier. When I sold LSD, I felt like a soldier. I had to admit, I'm doing a mistake there. Trying to correct it. Let's see here. When I sold LSD, I felt like I sold a ticket out of a system. For me, LSD and mushrooms were like arrows that pierced the heart of violence and caused painted-faced people of every color to play drums and dance together. They were a weapon, a chemical stone in the sling of my hand, as I stood like David facing my Goliath. To me, the Goliath had beaten my mother, destroyed my father, and willed me in and out of jail. It had put me in a mental prison created by the structure of a nation's culture. My Goliath was the system of the United States government. By some miracle, both Footbear and I were able to get our 10-year sentence reduced to 3. It was a miracle to me because if I had been caught with anyone else, my life would have been taken a very different turn. Neither one of us even being asked to testify against anyone or become informants. Footbear also gave me the keys to another trip that would last longer than any of the others we had experienced together. He introduced me to the first book on my spiritual journey, which I would read from the beginning to the end. Bo Lozos' book, We're All Doing Time. The book was and still is donated free to prisoners around the world by the Prison Ashram Project. When the book arrived in the mail for me, it felt like a lifeline to the outside world. Beyond the walls, smells, barbed wire, violence, and isolation of prison life. As I read, my eyes began to open to what was really keeping me incarcerated in my life. I had never read anything like it before. In its pages filled with spiritual stories from Christian saints to yoga and meditation practices. I started to understand that captivity is a spiritual condition, and to overcome a spiritual condition, you have to practice spirituality. What a revelation! I began to recognize that spirituality was even reflected within the walls of my experiences in prison. For example, prison talk is filled with stories of the street, and exploits of criminal life are a part of almost every conversation. The prison classrooms are the yard, wherever we work out, or maybe the game room where we play chess, cards, or board games. They are filled with some of the filthiest language you can imagine. Everything from cussing to vulgar exploits of women. The class topic could easily have been how to be a better criminal. With the help of the wisdom within the book I was reading, I started to see certain things in a new light. I noticed that when the spiritual men in the prison, sometimes Christian, sometimes Islamic, entered the room, the climate would change. In the presence, the tough gangster talk would calm down. Some of the gangsters even stuttered a little. Gabriel was from Mexico. He was known for fasting sometimes 40 to 50 days on nothing but water, juice, and milk. Sammy from Nigeria had such a presence that I saw groups of people break off as he walked through the prison, not by saying anything, just by being. I thought, these guys have real power. I began to learn that spirituality is not about overcoming, but about transcending and transforming a situation. It is not about being a criminal, it is about being a child of God. It's about finding the I am statements that serve your highest self, your medicine, and that you bring power into your life. I don't like the way that came out. It didn't come out very good. Let's see. And that you bring power into your life. Your medicine, and that you bring power into your life. I guess that's right. It just doesn't sound very good to me. All right, I'm just going to go from here. Delete that out and start here. My yearning for freedom from captivity and my discovery of spirituality led me to religion. In prison, Christianity was my only choice. They sure weren't offering any yoga or Tai Chi or Buddhist meditation. So I dove into Christianity full on, learning about service and loving God. I helped out in a ministry that was established by the Prison Church Fellowship. We'd buy extra shower shoes and soap so the ministry could give guys just coming onto the yard a small bag filled with shower shoes, soap, and even a candy bar. I had many amazing life-changing experiences while serving God in prison. For the 3 years I was there, I was incredibly hungry for God. I read the Bible, fasted, prayed deeply, and participated in everything I could. The religious life was challenging at times, but I felt a lot easier than dealing with the struggles of my old way of thinking. It gave me a lot to feast on, as it brought many powerful teachings into my life and that have stayed with me and been a comfort in my times of need. As I practiced my spirituality in prison, the power to manipulate reality seemed to unfold before my eyes. My influence grew, and it felt as if I was finding a path. I discovered that leaving one state of self-identity and finding another, what some call cognitive dissonance, is the state in which transformation is still uncertain. When I began to feel the emergence of a new life of freedom from the captivity of my destructive self-identity, the universe began to reveal the plan. As I started to share it with others, the manifestation of the abundance became clear in a new and meaningful relationships. I had a lot of time to focus on myself, and I started to share my newfound love of spirituality. As my process unfolded, I began to write letters to the many people who were involved in my criminal and drug-addicted life, telling of the power of God's love. One day, a friend who was still actively using heroin left one of my letters. Man, it's hard like sometimes when you're reading because it's challenging. And Monica's telling me that dinner's ready, so I need to go eat. That who was still actively using heroin left one of my letters. I guess I need to delete that part. One day a friend. All right, I think I'm going to stop right there and go eat. Let me save this. So thanks for tuning in and joining me for a little bit of the audiobook. I'm recording the audiobook for the Sacred7 and just taking you guys along with me, you know, showing you a little bit of what's going on in my quarantine world here. And Monica made us Buddha bowls tonight, so I'm going to go grab a Buddha bowl and then I might be back later. I'm not sure. We might do some guided imagery meditation with the sound bowls and the gong. So if that happens, I might come back on here. But thank you guys so much and blessings. Hope you enjoyed the reading too.